Good evening and welcome to PBS Fort Wayne. The name of our show is Life Ahead. If you're a regular viewer, you know what we're all about. Our intent is to provide you with information and education on different topics every week in hopes that as you have to make choices or decisions about your life ahead, thus the name of the show, you'll feel a little more informed. And tonight is a good night to be watching because we're going to be talking about caregiving. And I'd say probably more than 50% of you that are watching tonight, at some point in your life, you will either need a caregiver or you'll become a caregiver. So let's find out what it's all about. We have AARP representatives for us tonight, and I'm going to be asking them some questions, but I want you to also. And the phone number for our station here is 969-2720. Matt will appear on the screen periodically here in the next half hour, so you can give us a call and ask your questions of our guests this evening. I know you want to meet him, so let's do that. Next to me is Jeff Hale, by the way. Nice to have you with us. And I know underneath the jacket it's AARP, right?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah. And then I love your pin. I told you that earlier. The little red pin on her jacket or sweater is AARP also. And red and white are your school colors, I guess.
We do learn a lot, that's for sure.
Yes, and it's very distinctive, and certainly as we move through this next half hour, you'll become more familiar with what AARP offers. Many people, Jeff, we mentioned this a little bit ago in the green room or break room before the show, what people think AARP does, and I'm guessing most people think AARP, okay, travel, discounts on hotel rooms, things like that. Is that correct?
That's correct. There's certainly one of the benefits of membership is the discount program and so forth.
Sure.
So I like to use it for cruises as an example.
Oh, good for you.
But that's not what we're about.
I know.
And so I hope that people will look further than just those immediate discounts and see how we can provide information and provide support and provide connection to other resources.
And that's what we're really going to be talking about a lot tonight is the AARP Caregiving, a division or a part of AARP, like you said, that most people don't know that you can provide or you have resources. And speaking of working hard for AARP. Karen, nice to have you with us tonight.
Thank you, Sandy.
That's Karen Bartrom, by the way, and I understand you've volunteered for 30 years?
Well, I work in healthcare and have a nurse and worked with the elderly in my career, so have seen a lot of families that are struggling, you know, trying to care for their loved one, and yeah.
Well, you know, we've talked on Life Ahead many times about the need for home health care or health care for the family, not just the person, but the family as well, in many different ways, because that's very popular now. Number one, people have finally realized or spoken up and said, I know that I've got a lot of recovery to do, or I'm really, really sick, but I'd rather be at home than in the hospital. Or their emergency situations. Maybe they've had surgery and then the hospital says, okay, we're releasing you tomorrow to a rehab center or something because you can't go home without some help. So there are a lot of reasons people need some assistance. It's temporary sometimes, and sometimes it's a long time.
Yes.
In your experiences, Karen, what do people need the most for home care or from a caregiver?
You know, I think probably one of the biggest frustrations is just the overwhelm of really not knowing how to navigate through all the options that they have available to them. And maybe they don't have the training, or they feel like they don't have the tools. And maybe it's the payer that's really the snag. And oftentimes that does cause some issues with what's available to the caregiver around what programs they can participate in.
Jeff, is Fort Wayne pretty well stocked with agencies or businesses that provide home health care or caregiving services?
I think there can always be more. And our first connection is Aging in Home. And it is, a great clearinghouse, if you will, for what resources are available immediately in the vicinity of where you might live. But yeah, we can always use more. And what we mainly need are people to be aware that those resources are there before they become frustrated from their experience. And building in resentment towards family members or friends or the actual person receiving the care. So yeah, those resources are there, and we would love to see, as the community grows, that the growth of the resources follows suit.
Yeah, I hear you with that. We have had many different people here on Life Ahead, from legal services to medical services, that have referred people to aging and in-home services. They're sort of like a clearinghouse,
right.
Sort of a, what is it we have to dial? 811 or something if you're going to dig.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Or 911 if you have other issues. And aging and in-home services that can kind of help you. If you give them an idea of what you're looking for, they can help you find the resources. I know one person whose father needed some assistance, but wanted to live at home. And Aging and In-Home Services, they called, and they actually sent 2 people out to their house to meet them and talk to them and see how their health was or what kind of services they might need. Okay, Karen, we're showing a number right now of AARP Caregiver Resource Center.
Yeah.
What do you provide there? If somebody called that number or went to that website, Karen, what are they going to find?
Well, they will find a lot of tips and articles and suggestions on supporting the caregiver. And it has a plethora of resources in that particular AARP.org from that /caregiving. So would really recommend that, if you have a need, to check that, because you can really get lost in a lot of the information there. And it's so valuable because it can give you your next step.
Your next step.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about that, Jeff. And you've been a volunteer for how long now, Jeff?
2 or 3 years.
Okay, so you've had lots of different experiences in that time.
Right.
Karen said your first step. How many steps are there, or what are you looking for?
Sure. Well, leading up to the actual experience, AARP has 5 steps. I'll see if I can remember them all. The first is to look for an opportunity to hold the conversation, also develop a team, so maybe that's family or neighbors or your local church or other social organizations. The other situations, be sensitive to the person's wishes and emotional reactions.
That was an important one.
Yeah, and then the 5th is to be ready and have a plan to take care of yourself as the stresses and anxiety and tensions occur at times, because a lot of times we have plan A, and plan A doesn't always happen, or some part of it breaks down. So it's always good to make sure that you have a support system for yourself as you give that care.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that's an important thing we need to focus on and think about. If you become a caregiver, that's the person who's taking care of the ill person or the person that needs some assistance. You can't burn out, or you're not going to. What is it they say? Airlines, the face mask, put yours on first, because if you can't breathe and aren't strong enough, you can't take care of the other people. So is that kind of the philosophy with caregiving?
Definitely. The caregiver really has to take care of themselves. And I know that AARP estimates there's 63 million caregivers.
In the United States,
in the United
63
States,
million?
yes.
And growing. And growing.
And 59 million
And growing.
are taking care of adults.
Yeah.
So we also know that the caregivers are getting younger, and the average age is around 51, and those caregivers are probably juggling other things like jobs and families while they're trying to make sure that their loved one has everything that they need.
Yeah. And that's hard.
Yeah.
That's hard, and they could burn out if they have, their own family and their own kids that they're trying to take care of. Speaking of statistics, 63 million, wow,
Yes.
that's amazing. I did hear a statistic that every day, today, tomorrow, the next
Yes.
day, there are 10,000 people that turn 65 in the United States every day. So that was today. We'll have to remember that and wish them happy birthday on this day next year. But what that means is that there are that many more people, again, with medical technology now allowing people to live longer and healthier. There are going to be a lot more people that need caregiving.
And by 2030, this is not a new statistic, but by 2030 there will be more people over age 65 than under. So,
oh, really?
And so as a result of that, this is hopefully it's a timely conversation, but certainly it's an important conversation to be having as we start looking the next 5 years, what's going to look like, and what about the 5 after that, and so forth. So we can only we cannot make a mistake if we start planning now.
Right. And we've had that recommended so many times as well that, if people think that they are moving in the direction of a nursing home or a rehab center or something like that, or assisted living, that while they're still young, if you will, that they start visiting some of those places and looking at websites and begin to make intelligent decisions of what they might want. How do we pick a caregiver, though, Karen, if we're going to stay at home and we're going to need help there?
Yeah. I think that AARP does a wonderful job of really helping seniors age in place and provide these resources. And sometimes that's what the caregiver needs. They just need that additional support so that they can bring in more services and allow that loved one to stay at home. So there's a lot of work out there, just with, as Jeff mentioned, companies that are making themselves known. They're expanding because of how many are in need. And we see more home health care agencies. We see more home care agencies that are not the medical component, but it's the companion. It's someone that can actually come in and give that caregiver a break. And, in the home. And much like with aging and in-home services, and the mentioned earlier, they have a respite program that is relatively new. And
I did not know that.
So that is, it's for Steuben and Whitley counties. That's where it's located. But anyone that lives in any county, that's where the services would be delivered. But they do have the ability to have that caregiver sign up and then have their loved one go up to, I think it's 1 day, but 3.5 hours that day. So their loved one is receiving excellent care, but that caregiver can step away and go do some of the things that they need to do for either self-care or just, their activities. So that's relatively new.
That's great, and much needed, I'm sure, because if you are a full-time caregiver and the person you're taking care of is perhaps not mobile at all, and they're in bed and need care all the time, that's exhausting. So if you have somebody that could come in, again, that, what did you call it, respite?
Yeah, it's a respite care program that I'm not remembering exactly the name. It's like a rural respite.
It gives a break to the caregiver for a few hours or whatever they need.
Yes.
Okay, that I think is going to be very popular.
So I think there's some government funding that is now available because there is a lot of legislation, and AARP supports that, and seeing what we can do to make sure that if there's caregiving legislation, that we're right there, fighting for the Hoosiers. And
you guys do that. Is that right, Jeffrey? You as a volunteer, you guys not only, again, maybe get companies or whatever to help with your crews or whatever, but to work with legislation and keep on track with things politically.
So we consider ourselves advocates, and advocates who will pretty much talk to the most powerful, as well as the people who are up-and-coming leaders. So in Indiana, we have a legislative team that goes to the Capitol during session, and we'll meet with our legislators and across the state about particular issues that affect people who are 50 and older. And so sometimes our legislators love to see us coming because it's a welcome face. And other times they know that we're coming in with some real questions and concerns about where something is moving, but they're always open to us, and they appreciate our honesty and our willingness to raise issues.
Great.
Because they understand that if we are coming in, there's give or take 20 people on the team, if we are coming in with questions, we are a representative sampling of what's happening across the state. And it's the team is made up of people from all across the state. So larger communities like Fort Wayne to smaller communities. And so it's fun.
You all go together to
yes.
All right.
Yeah, and
propose your ideas.
Right, and one of those times we have what's called coffee cart, and so we have coffee and pastries or whatever, and then we can see which legislators are taking care of themselves and eating healthy, but we can also offer them a cup of coffee to keep them awake as
you invite the legislators to come to you.
And they talk to us, and then
always have food, always have coffee, and
it tends to work.
You'll get plenty of people.
But we also, on those other times, will be outside the various chambers waiting for legislators to come out. We'll send notes into them asking them to come meet with us. Here's our question. So they have, we don't want to surprise them, but they
have an idea.
They have an idea, okay, I'm going to get asked about this. Yeah. And it's always specific about a particular bill that's being considered, or a particular question that's being considered by them versus something that's just of interest to us.
Okay, we have a phone call coming in here. I want to make sure that I get as many of those on the air that I can. This is from Judy, by the way, and Judy says this: I make too much for Medicaid, but I can't afford to join AARP, but I desperately need some of the resources for housing. What do we do with that? Can you give some advice to Judy?
Yes, it's calling 211. And
211?
211. This is a clearinghouse for any resources that you might need. When you call, you can actually tell them what the need is. They will get you connected, and they can also connect you with a navigator so they can walk through the process with you. So it's not just call this number.
Yeah.
Here's who can help you. No, it's more information than that. So, and of course this is free and so easy to remember, the number 211, and to get anything that you can possibly think of that would be from housing to transportation to affordability of medications. So it's a fabulous resource.
Oh, that's great. So
fabulous.
That's like a 911 for AARP.
Yeah, it is.
211,
Correct.
Easy to remember.
Yeah.
Okay, I appreciate your call, by the way, Judy. Thank you for watching us here on Life Ahead. Is this a typical thing? People have needs but are having concerns. Judy mentioned, by the way, that she couldn't afford it. I don't think AARP is expensive at all.
Well, it's a matter of perspective, but it's under $20 per year. I think it's more in the neighborhood of $15, $16.
You probably can't even get a magazine subscription for that.
On occasion, there are specials of like $11.
Yeah.
I think what's going on right now.
Or you get some free merchandise, a utility bag or something.
So, so it's not exorbitantly expensive to belong. But on the other hand, for some people that's a lot of money, and we appreciate that as well. And our main thing is if Judy or others want to connect with us, we'll see if we can help direct them towards a resource.
And depending on what your needs are or what you would use, Judy or anybody else watching, you might make that up very quickly with some of the discounts that are provided. It wasn't these, but one time I bought a pair of glasses and I was ready to pay for them, and they said, if you have an AARP card, you can have 15% off. Voila. That was wonderful. So there are probably a lot of opportunities for discounts that we don't even know about.
Yeah, the discount program is pretty widespread in terms of what it covers, but But again, that's a benefit of joining but we hope that people hear that what we are really trying to do is to be advocates for people my age and older, and by empowering them to make good decisions that are comfortable for them as they age about their housing.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. I understand, Karen, you're kind of an expert on resources. So I wonder if you could tell us about some of the local resources that are available.
Yeah. Of course, Aging and Home Services is a great place to start.
Yeah.
And they certainly could hear what the need is and see if they've got a program that would marry up to that. And their programs are at no cost. And they don't factor in your income or anything like that. It's more if you've got the need and you qualify, then they want to get those services in place. And there's other agencies throughout northeastern Indiana. I also think of the senior resource book that comes from the Council on Senior Services. And that book is like a Bible because it literally has every topic, has all the facilities, and really helps that either the caregiver or that elderly person know where to go next based on those topics that are listed in that book. And
if we went to your website, which we talked about a little bit ago,
yes.
And maybe we can look at the phone number and the website again, would we find a lot of this information or links to it?
Yeah. It's a website full of resources, so membership aside, you can still access a lot of information that helps inform you about what's available, and hopefully locally as well. If it doesn't have a specific local resource, at least you would have an idea of what to look for locally.
Even if you're not a member of AARP, you can get that information on the website.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, good to know. I do want to mention, by the way, because it's coming up here very shortly, you will be at the Senior Information Fair, right?
That's correct.
Okay, and we just had a show on that last week, by the way. Their committee was here and talked about that. It's the 18th, that's Thursday, 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. at Turnstone, by the way. Easy to find. It's on Coldwater Road, just a little bit before you get to Glenbrook. So you'll have, I bet we can find you with your red and white shirt.
It'll be hard to miss us, yes.
Okay. What's your focus going to be at the Senior Fair?
It will be, again, a lot of caregiving issues because that event has so many different resources from care providers to insurance companies and so forth. So we'll echo that as well. But also, it's really to make friends as well and to be a part of the community that's visiting the event.
Yeah, and I like that that you said to make friends, because a lot of people I've heard that have gone to the Senior Fair and met business people or organizations or clubs or people from nursing homes. I mean, there's so many different resources. There are legal services, just lots of things. And they make friends and have a good conversation with the people at the booth. And then later, if they need you, they just call you up and say, hey, Jeff, we talked at the Senior Fair.
Right.
Okay, you've got about 15 seconds, Karen, to give me any last-minute advice, or our viewers, on AARP.
Yeah, I would just encourage caregivers to ask your physician, make phone calls to nursing facilities. There are so many resources and people are so willing to help when there's someone in need. Yeah. It's really just getting out there and asking the questions. And AARP.org is a huge website with so much information that you probably will be a one-stop shop and be able to get what you're looking for and then know what your next step is.
Right, you have 30 seconds, Jeff.
Oh, okay. Just going back to Senior Information Fair, the nice thing about that particular event is with our table, we're seniors that you're talking to, so we actually understand.
I don't believe that.
Many of the questions that are asked, because we're also asking the same thing for ourselves.
Yeah.
So unlike, we're not trying to sell anything, we're just trying to put our name out there as we're available to help. We're advocating when we for people we don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
But that's our whole purpose, is to bring awareness to the situations that we encounter as we age.
Yeah.
And I will mention to you, by the way, they're not employees, they're volunteers. So
Correct.
you're speaking from the heart,
Right.
and I know that you've given a lot of your own time. Well, I'm glad you gave your time tonight to us here on PBS Fort Wayne. I'm Sandy Thomson, the host of the show, but again, I want to thank you so much, Karen and Jeff, for being
welcome.
here.
Thank
to
you, Sandy.
Keep us informed about AARP.
Sure will.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll see you next Wednesday right here with a different topic and different guests. Good night.
The preceding program on PBS Fort Wayne was made possible in part by...
When I got a call saying my water bill was past due, all I could think about was, oh no, my plant babies. The guy told me I had to go make a payment at a crypto ATM in town.
Recognize fraud sooner with AARP, so your money lives longer.
Crypto ATM.